You have caused me.
And gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations. Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5. This scriptural passage from the book of prophet Jeremiah sets an apt tone for the National Conference Cum workshop organized by St. Peter's Pontifical Institute in collaboration with Asian Center for Cross-Cultural Studies. Your Excellencies, honorable dignitaries, distinguished presenters, and esteemed participants, very affectionate and warm greetings to each one of you, and a very warm welcome to you to this national conference on the theme Priestly and Religious Formation in India today in the light of Pope Francis' vision. A theme that is going to provoke deep intellectual explorations and ultimately guide us to reshape our vision with a renewed vigor and motivation. In the words of Pope Francis, Jesus is the one who calls, not the priest, nor the bishop or the pope. It is Jesus who gazes at us with love, who shows us the people and their needs by saying, "If you wish, come and help." The formation is to help someone discover one's vocation and to shape one's life in accordance with the charism and spirituality. The process of formation involves several steps that may vary depending upon where they belong. With this short note, may I now request the Assembly to rise and welcome the dignitaries with a huge round of applause. His Grace, Most Reverend Dr. Peter Machado, Archbishop of Bangalore and the Chancellor of St. Peter's Pontifical Institute. Most Reverend Dr. Lawrence Pius, Bishop of Dharmapuri and the Vice Chancellor of St. Peter's Pontifical Institute. Reverend Sister Rose Celine, Superior General, Sisters of the Little Flower of Bethany, Bangalore. Reverend Dr. Richard Brito, Rector, St. Peter's Pontifical Seminary. Reverend Professor Felix Wilfred, Founder and Director, Asian Center for Cross-Cultural Studies, Chennai. Reverend Dr. Stanley Fernandez, Registrar, St. Peter's Pontifical Institute. Keynote speaker, Reverend Sister Inigo Joachim, the former Superior General, Sisters of St. Anne, Chennai. Accompanied by Reverend Dr. Anthony Lawrence, President, St. Peter's Pontifical Institute. Prayer is a mighty instrument, not for getting man's will done in heaven, but for getting God's will done on earth, says Robert Law. To begin this auspicious occasion, may I invite the choir members, the Gita rollers, to invoke the Almighty. As the prayer hymn resounds, I request the dignitaries, Chancellor, Most Reverend Dr. Peter Machado, Vice Chancellor, Most Reverend Dr. Lawrence Pius, Reverend Sister Rose Celine, Superior General, Sister Inigo Joachim, and Professor Felix Wilfred to come forward to light the lamp. Kindly be seated. I express my gratitude to the Gita rollers for leading us into prayer on this beautiful occasion through their sweet melodies. Dear friends, among us here, there are extraordinary stalwarts, efficient leaders, reputed professors, seasoned writers, well read scholars, much loved promoters, able administrators, research scholars, superior generals, provincial superiors, and the councillors of different congregations. We are honored to have you in our midst, a bunch of such distinguished guests. To welcome and greet them, we have with us diligent and dynamic leader, Reverend Dr. Anthony Lawrence, the President of St. Peter's Pontifical Institute. I now call upon our President to give a red carpet welcome to everyone assembled here.
Those who are sitting at the back are kindly requested to come and occupy the seats in the front. Those who are at the back could be kind enough to come forward. People are arriving, still they are coming, so they will come and occupy the seats at the back. 2-3 rows are empty. Thank you. Your Grace Archbishop, Your Excellency Bishop, Honorable dignitaries, distinguished professors, esteemed invitees, and dear friends, sisters, fathers, brothers, and all Christ faithful, a very affectionate and warm greetings to each one of you. It is undoubtedly an incredible and memorable day in the annals of St. Peter's. What is indeed most profound is the fact that there are many superiors general, provincial superiors, rectors, formators, formies, and as many as 600 ardent participants from different parts of India in this lit festival. A galaxy of carefully chosen India's most prolific and leading theologians, social scientists, and professors will be sharing their thoughts and reflections on the theme Priestly and Religious Formation in India Today in the light of Pope Francis' vision. The theme is indeed a very timely and most appropriate one for today. This national conference cum workshop arguably is the most elaborate and decorated event in the said theme in the Indian Church in recent times. I deem it my singular honor to welcome the prolific personalities and the august gathering for this unprecedented event organized by St. Peter's Pontifical Institute, Bangalore, in collaboration with the Asian Center for Cross-Cultural Studies, Chennai, whose founder director is Professor Dr. Felix Wilfred. At the very outset, it is my greatest joy to welcome His Grace, Most Reverend Dr. Peter Machado, the much loved Archbishop of Bangalore and the Chancellor of St. Peter's Pontifical Institute, to this national conference, who leaves no stone unturned to bring laurels to the Institute and aspires greater heights for it. He is a person who walks the talk by living the theology he preaches. By speaking up front for the church when it matters, he has proved his mettle as a true leader and a prophet. He is the right person to deliver the inaugural address to this conference because he is someone in whom we could see the wishes and aspirations of Holy Father Pope Francis embodied concretely. While expressing our profound gratitude to you, Your Grace, for all your unqualified assistance and encouragement to our institute, I, on behalf of the Very Reverend Father Richard Brito, the Rector, and the whole institute, wholeheartedly welcome you to this National Conference Cum workshop to deliver your much eagerly awaited presidential address. May I now request Father Rector to honor His Grace with a shawl as a sign of our welcome. Let us put our hands together and welcome. We have been extraordinarily blessed by the invaluable presence of His Excellency, Most Reverend Dr. Lawrence Pius, the Bishop of Dharmaburi and the Vice Chancellor of St. Peter's Pontifical Institute. As a disciplined pastor, prolific scholar, philosopher, and theologian, his presence, needless to say, makes the event exceptionally solemn. He is a bishop who, as a true shepherd, wants to keep himself updated on emerging trends in theology so that he may be able to enlighten his priests and his people. Bishop has a great love for the Indian cultures and Asian diversity. He has also written much on Pope Francis and his writings. Bishop is a wealth of knowledge both in philosophy and theology. As a down-to-earth pastor, astute scholar, passionate teacher, and voracious reader, he ever adds mileage to this institute. Your Excellency, your presence in this national conference is truly promising and highly commendable, to say the least. Profoundly welcome, Your Excellency. It's my joy also to announce that His Excellency Most Reverend Dr. Lawrence Pius, our Vice Chancellor, celebrates his Episcopal Silver Jubilee this year. Bishop for 25 years, a stupendous milestone for any bishop. May I request His Grace Archbishop, our Chancellor, to honor His Excellency Bishop on this momentous occasion with a garland. I'm immensely excited to welcome Very Reverend Sister Inigo, a multifaceted personality. Her planner is overcrowded. Yet she has squeezed out some time for the Institute, which shows her affection for us and enthusiasm for this national event. Sister Inigo belongs to the Congregation of Sisters of St. Anne, Chennai. After her 2 terms as Superior General of the congregation, she has been working at Tihar prisons in New Delhi, touching hearts of the inmates by her very presence and involvement in different welfare activities. She was also the secretary of the women's section of National CRI and represented the religious of Southeast Asia at the Synod of Bishops in Rome on Vita Consecrata. Sister Inigo has the charisma of presenting significant and composite issues in a very simple style, in the way her audience can grasp easily. Her acquaintance with the Bible, the ability to use apt quotes on pertinent occasions is something unbelievable. Though she is a biblical scholar, she is not a biblical scholar or a theologian. Her ability to portray the Asian face of Jesus so colorfully is indeed amazing. She is much sought after resource person for chapters, seminars, and retreats both in India and abroad. She is also the author of a few but very widely read books. Dear Sister Inigo, putting away your pressing engagements, you have graced this occasion, increasing its glitter and raising our morale. I don't think there is any major religious congregation or order in India which has not profited from out of your expertise, either by way of retreat preaching or consultation in conducting of the chapters. As an impeccable orator, as proficient teacher of truth, as lucid preacher of the word, and a formidable guide, your contribution to the building up of the church in India is truly awe-inspiring. We heartily thank you for gracing this occasion, and a very cordial welcome to you, dear Sister Inigo. May I now request Reverend Dr. Stanisy Fernandez, our registrar, to honor Sister Inigo with a shawl.
Much, Father. This is too much.
No. Give to him book. Yeah. I'm immensely thankful to the guest of honor of today, Very Reverend Mother Rose Celine, the Superior General of Bethany Sisters, Bangalore. When I approached her with our request to grace the occasion by offering her words of felicitation to this national conference, she accepted our request very willingly despite her tight schedule. Mother Rose Celine was elected as Superior General of Bethany Congregation on 11th February 2016 for the first term and was re-elected on 11th February 2022 for the second term. She has served as the President of National Conference of Women Religious of India since 2018 to 2021. She is a gold medalist in B.Ed from St. Anne's College, Bangalore. She holds licentiate in depth psychology from Pontifical Gregorian University, Rome. She is basically an educationist and a formator, an appropriate person for the occasion to offer felicitation for this conference. She has proved competence in the field of formation and education. She has got rich experience of having organized a number of workshops and conferences for the staff and students in the field of education and formation. She is also known to be efficient counselor, psychotherapist, retreat preacher, and spiritual director for religious and priest. As an empathetic listener, she accompanies many religious in formative journey and discernment of vocation. A leader by birth, friendly by nature, with great love for the poor, with incredible missionary zeal, she always walks extra miles to build people and communities, ever giving and never counting, all for the glory of God. It's a great pleasure to welcome such a noble personality as a guest of honor today. While I thank you, dear Sister Rosalind, for honoring us with your gracious presence, we welcome you most heartily, dear Mother. May I now request Professor Dr. Felix Wilfred to honor her with a shawl as a sign of our welcome. Professor Dr. Felix Wilfred, the brain behind this marvelous event, one of its kind event, needs no introduction. As an internationally renowned scholar, theologian, and speaker, with several best-selling books on diverse subjects, especially with a particular thrust on the Asian public theology, as president of the Concilium for nearly 12 long years, as member of the International Theological Commission of the Vatican, as founder director of Asian Center for Cross-Cultural Studies, as editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Asian Christianity, as chair of School of Philosophy and Religious Thought, University of Madras, etc., and etc. He has etched his name in the annals of the Church in Asia and abroad. I must honestly confess here that Professor Felix not only dreamt this knowledge festival, he relentlessly kept a record or a track of the progress, calling me practically every week, updating me, taking a review from me, and encouraging my drooping spirit. His very presence is the biggest source of strength and encouragement for all of us. We are most eagerly looking forward to his robust address tomorrow morning. Dear Father Felix, literally speaking, but for you, this event is not there. We welcome you heartily, dear Father. We go on the dais, Reverend Dr. Richard Brito, the rector of St. Peter's. Without him being by my side, and but for his absolute cooperation and collaboration, this event probably would have remained in the paper alone. Dear Father Rector, we extend a very hearty and warm welcome to you. We have also with us on the dais Reverend Dr. Stanisi Fernandez, the registrar of our institute. He is known for his systematic and cordial approach. He has been my great strength in all the endeavors the institute undertakes. Dear Father, we welcome you warmly to this national conference. Dear friends, we have in this August gathering some of the nationally and internationally recognized and much loved theologians and professionals. Their theological and philosophical contribution to the local church and international church is truly unparalleled. They may seem unassuming, dear friends, make no mistake. They are an authority in their own respective field, who are going to be the apple of your eyes for the rest of these days. They have painstakingly arrived from north, south, east, and west, adding variety and diversity. This conference could have never taken off but for their tremendous sacrifice and goodwill. I have no words to welcome you, dear paper presenters, moderators. From the depth of my heart, on behalf of the dignitaries, our Chancellor and Vice Chancellor, I extend to you all a sweet welcome and wish you all well. Thank you. An event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling months ago. It requires lots of planning, organizing, coordination, and execution. You have been fortunate enough to be backed by many committees of very motivated and dedicated staff and the students. The entire vibrant staff at St. Peter's firmly stood with us. I extend a very cordial and warmest welcome to you, dear faculty and students. Dear friends among us here, as Sister Prima said well, there are extraordinary stalwarts, tall leaders, renowned theologians, reputed professors and rectors, seasoned writers, well read scholars, greatly admired preachers, much loved formators, able administrators, research scholars, generals, provincials, counselors of different congregations, and Christ faithful from near and far. Your presence here truly makes this campus and this event productive, purposeful, and colorful. I, in the name of this institute, welcome you all very warmly and lovingly. The greater portion of this auditorium is graced by our own much loved and admired faculty, both of seminary and institute. There is another hall extension up, and there again you have 150 students of our institute. We have also the licentiate students of canon law, missiology, and biblical theology, the students of philosophy and theology. It is they who have made this event a reality. I don't mind to call out the fathers, sisters, and brothers of different committees who spent sleepless nights to put up this flawless, outstanding event. An affectionate welcome to all of you, friends. Hope I have missed no one. Consider this as my personal and gracious welcome to each and every one present here and around. Your presence is indeed our gladness. I, on behalf of this institute, wish you a very profitable time and a conducive stay. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Father, for your gracious words of welcome. We welcome you too for this great occasion. Vision needs visionaries, and we are blessed to have one among us. Here is someone who sees the future by understanding the present learning from the past. He is also a man of strong faith and deep conviction, a man well known for his life of total integrity. His life is truly edifying to all of us, who takes a lot of interest in the welfare of the society. I deem it a privilege to request His Grace, Most Reverend Dr. Peter Machado, Archbishop of Bangalore, and the Chancellor of St. Peter's Pontifical Institute, to illuminate our minds with his presidential address.
Most Reverend Bishop Lawrence Dorairaj, the formator, professor, and perhaps a good pastor also, my dear President of the St. Peter's Institute, Father Anthony Lawrence, Father Dr. Felix Wilfred, an eminent theologian and a luminary among us, my dear Sister Inigo, as was introduced, an inspiration for the women's empowerment and also a leader in our own style, Mother Rose Celine, the Superior General of the Bethany Sisters, Father Richard Brito, the Rector of the St. Peter's Seminary, Father Stanislaus Stani Fernandez, I'm saying his full name, which is not mentioned properly. the registrar of the institute, my dear fathers, brothers, sisters, seminarians, and friends. Normally, the presidential address comes at the end, and normally the president picks up points from all the talks and makes its own. But I'm deprived of that sort of resourcefulness that I'm asked to speak in the beginning itself, so that the others perhaps pick something from me or maybe point fingers at me. I'm very happy with Bishop Lawrence, who is on the chair, and we have been together also as seminarians. And at the same time, I know that he is a good pastor and a good professor, still a dedicated professor who teaches and who practices also. It seems in his diocese, when he went back, there was a priest who was ordained recently and studied, of course, under him. And the bishop was very happy with the priest and said, "You are doing well, you have done very well in the seminary, and so perhaps you could give a talk to our seminar on mission, evangelization, something like that." And the priest was very happy. The bishop recognized me so soon as one of the experts, and whole night he prepared, and the next day he came to deliver his talk. And he talked and talked and talked, and he thought it was very nice, and of course it was good. And then he went to the bishop and asked him, "How was my talk?" And the bishop said, "Your talk was very moving. Your talk was very soothing. And your talk was very fulfilling." And this man was in the heavens. He almost lifted his collar. And he said, "Bishop, wait, he said. I'm explaining to you. Your talk was very moving because did you see that many people were moving out of the hall?" Your talk was very soothing because some people who were there were shaking their heads this side, that side, closing their eyes also. And the talk was fulfilling because the organizers told me that you have covered so many points and all the points not to call you again. I hope you won't say this to me because I've never been a formator in my life. I've always been perhaps a priest and a bishop, but something of formation rubs you somewhere, everywhere that you go. It's a beautiful topic that Father Lawrence has taken up as a seminar, as an enlightenment for all of us, the priestly and the religious formation. I see that Father Lawrence within a year has organized already 2 or 3 such national and international seminars on the synodality, on the laity, on the vocations of formation. That's very good. And so today we are here to see what is religious formation, priestly or religious formation. You know, the word formation is very important. The word form, which forms the root as that. I think yesterday's first reading was a beautiful one from Isaiah, where at the end of the reading, the prophet says, "You are the soil, I am the soil, but you are the potter who makes the pot, who creates a new creation, as it were, and with something called the mud, the muck, but still you form us." I think that beautifully explains what is formation, where we come from, what we are, and what we are expected to be. The word formation, as I said, the root is form. It can be inform, it can be reform. Perhaps I will speak a little about deforming it, because formation is now something what is specified, which is etched out, and we know, perhaps we think we know all the principles of formation, and therefore perhaps we have to trim certain of our principles that we thought were part of formation. And what would I like to trim, as it were, critically, to trim so that we give less importance to them, but more importance to other things. So the less importance, I would say, we have been speaking again and again what's called the intellectual formation. Very nice. We have to be intellectually formed. And sometimes the success of the seminarians, the formees, is considered in what they have acquired as knowledge, intellectually formed. Perhaps, as we say in the education system, we are stressing so much the IQ that we have forgotten the EQ, emotional quotient, and SQ, the spiritual quotient. It's as good as it's not important at all, but the information, the knowledge part, what we call the intellectual part is very important. I think we have to trim it a little. The second one is what's called the cultic formation. The cultic formation in our seminaries, in our formation houses, the cult is so important. We have to have our liturgy, we have to have our rites, we have to perhaps have our prayers together. We have stressed so much on our hymns and the choir and everything else which is necessary. But then I think we have to trim it a little, because the cultic part is important, but goes along or accompanies our formation. Sometimes you have to read and pray so much, like in our catechism classes, we say that the catechism children are so much strained and focused on catechism so much, they say that once they are out of the school, or perhaps that age of 10 standard, they say we have done catechism for our whole life now. There's no need of any more catechism. There are some priests and religious who say that we have prayed enough in the seminary. Perhaps there's no need of any more prayers now. I had known a priest who was not very cultic or liturgical, whatever you may want to say. He used to say the prayers and the breviary so well. Of course, he didn't know. But then when he became a priest, the bishop asked him, do you know what is the day today that you have to read, which week and which this thing? And he said, Bishop, I don't know. But then you're not saying the breviary? He said, yes, I'm saying it. How do you say it? I read 30 pages a day, he said. Perhaps that's the type of cultic formation that we are giving, that we give up our prayers altogether, that we give up our breviary altogether, that no longer prayers is important for us. Thirdly, the sacramental. Surely we can't do without the sacraments. The sacraments are very important for us. The sacramental formation is very important, that we perhaps should know which sacrament and when and how to perhaps to do it. But many often it could be the sacramental, what we call the administration, could be what we call the ex operato. That means St. Thomas Aquinas said that perhaps even if sometimes we don't mean what we are saying, but because we have said it, the sacrament is fulfilled, and perhaps the merits of it we enjoy. We have gone perhaps a little ahead to say that the sacramental importance, but without understanding it, without knowing the meaning of it, and without the application of it. And finally, I said that we have to trim a little of what's called, perhaps not in the formation, but what comes later, which maybe we are stressing a little earlier, what we call the administrative type of formation. Administration. Many of our priests, especially now dioceses, are spending more time in administration now. They are in charge of buildings, they are in charge of education, they are in charge of offices. We don't have time for the people. We don't have much time for the people today. Perhaps the administrative. And therefore, we have to trim these four. Perhaps, once again, I repeat, the intellectual, the cultic, the sacramental, and the administrative. But at the same time, perhaps we could add a little more to some other things in the formation that we may not have paid that much of time. And to speak in the modern language of the theology of the Holy Father, I would repeat once again the 4 things. Perhaps we could add a little more. The first one is called the synodal formation. The synodal formation. Perhaps you might ask, what is synodal? We have had small groups, meetings, and we sent our reports to Rome, and they had a meeting there. I think it was just an academic exercise. We had to do it. The priests were asked to do it. The convents or the religious houses had to send the report, and we sent a report about it. Perhaps a very good report also. But it didn't mean much to us. What is synodality? Synodality is taking into consideration the people who are sitting on the other side, not on the people who are speaking. The Holy Father says, listening to the others. How much in our formation perhaps we listen to our formees? It's as good as they don't know, I know much more than that. I'm the one who goes on pouring into their heads what is needed, what is necessary. It's not important for me to ask them whether what I'm giving is adapt, required, relevant. It's not necessary. So therefore, perhaps we have to focus also our training, our formation on the other side, to take the synodality and to train our future priests and religious also in this synodal approach, wherein we sit with the people, we talk to the people. It doesn't come on the pyramidical style of what we call from the top to the bottom, but from the bottom to the top. There was this sister who attended the synod in Rome, one of the sisters from Bangalore, Sister Lalita, and she told the religious and also priests the system that was adapted by the Holy Father. It wasn't a lecture system by which the Holy Father addressed, the cardinals addressed, but they were made to sit in a round table conference, as it were. We have seen some pictures of it, that at every table there were 8 to 10 people who talked to each other, who listened to each other, and that was the style. Perhaps we have to learn something from this synodal way of approach and formation. Secondly, I call it what's called the gratitudinal formation. I bring it a new concept, as it were. What is gratitude? You are grateful. Have you ever told any of our formies that be grateful for the vocation that God has given you, that God has called you, that God has perhaps chosen you out of so many people, of so many others that are there, that you are special? At the introduction, Sister told us, you are from the Isaiah, you are chosen from the womb. Even before you could be perhaps conceived in your womb, you have been chosen. Have you made it a realization for our formies, our priests and religious, to say that you have to be grateful? And gratitude brings up so much in us, not only the humility part, but also the part of unworthiness. I read a certain interview by our past cricket captain, Mahendra Dhoni. He says that I come from a small town. If you see the geography of India, mostly the cricketers come from Bombay, Bangalore, Calcutta, Delhi. You don't hear so much of the small places at all. That's suddenly a person from Ranchi, which is still called backward, a place that is perhaps not considered much, that a person should be selected to play for India and become a great captain. He, in all his humility, says, I was really surprised that I was chosen. Because even in cricket, like in this one, you need a godfather, you need influence, you need money to come up. But then I was chosen, and my heart was sank to say that I have to be grateful. And I have to prove that I am grateful, gratitude is my greatest point. And that is what perhaps made me play my first match, my second match, my last match. Gratitude. Perhaps we have missed out this point. We have told our formies that you have come here because you got 80 marks in your college, you have come here and you go up and up and up. I don't know where's the last point. We have told them that ultimately it is because of your merits, if because of this one you have come up, Not necessarily. Our vocation is a gift of God. Have you ever realized that this gift which we have to, it's a precarious gift which can fall at any time, perhaps like that St. Paul says we are holding something in a crucible. It might fall, it might crack. And we know the vocations today are very, very, perhaps, we can't say anything about them. So therefore, gratitudinal. And thirdly, I say incarnational. Our training, our formation has to be incarnational. Perhaps it's a big word. What's incarnation? God becoming man. St. Augustine says, God became man so that man could become God, or rather man could rise up to the level of God. That is incarnation. So therefore, to take everything that is in us, to say that, to raise it up to the level of godliness, to say that, our formation, like our vocation, is a mystery. It's a mystery. It has the divine elements, it has the human elements. We don't take only the divine elements, we are not angels. We don't take only the human elements. We make it a human psychology and human, perhaps, theology as such. We combine. And this combination is a holy combination, which we experience in incarnation of Jesus himself who came down to us. And therefore our subjects, our conversations, our examples should be that uplifting, as it were, that from down we go to the up, because God came down to us. Our subjects, very important to choose the correct subjects, the correct approaches, the correct examples, the correct instances, the correct methodology, which is incarnational. And finally, I say that experiential or personal. Perhaps we have kept this aside. I am not worried about from where you come from. You have to follow the rules of this house. I don't bother that from what is your background. Now your background is different. All of us have to be in the same style, get up, same tuck, and get up and sit down. We have to follow this rule and regulation. The personal and experiential. How often perhaps we really talk to our formies. How often perhaps we make them talk to us. Once again, I go back to the synodal method. The Holy Father, in one of his beautiful encyclicals that was brought out on the 160th anniversary of John Mary Vianney, he has got a beautiful 4-point that he gives, which is important for vocations, he says. And one of the things, surprisingly, he says, the pain, the experience of pain. He says the experience of pain is very important in our vocation. To live our past, to live our failures, to live our situations where we are humiliated. And therefore the Holy Father explains, first of all, on the part of the seminarians or perhaps the priests, to say that it's a painful life that we live. Perhaps it's easy for us to get our first vocational thoughts when we thought we would be high and high. But many of us, perhaps when we become priests and sisters, we say, what a life we have chosen. No one acknowledges, everyone criticizes us, everyone finds fault with us from inside and from outside. Why did he ever become a priest? Why did I ever become a sister? But there lies the beauty of our vocation, that we experience the pain of Jesus, the agony of Jesus. And that is why perhaps the experience of pain, and a priest who has, a religious who has experienced pain, can understand the pain of the others. I can understand that why this particular child has come late today for school, because there is some pain. There is something, perhaps, it's not always carelessness, it's not always perhaps distraction. There is something behind. And that we have to understand. The experiential formation. And once again, I repeat these 4 perhaps, which we have to again perhaps put a little more content in that, as we reduce little more content in the first 4 that I said: the synodal formation, the gratitudinal formation, or reminding the students, the formies, again and again, especially, as you know, in the mode of Mother Mary's, what we call Magnificat, to bless and thank God that He has chosen us, that He has specially called us. The incarnational formation. In order to pick up from there, perhaps we don't need the classrooms anymore we don't need to build more and more classrooms from our seminarians. Why don't we take them under the tree? They would understand much better the nature, they would understand much better the ants that they bite them there, but they might learn much more. Incarnational. And finally, experiential and personal. Take every person is unique. We are not a military of everyone, perhaps the marching same way, getting up same way, sitting up same way. Perhaps we are forced to do it. But then treat each person with dignity. Each person is special. And in this way, perhaps we can also achieve information, or rather restart the formation, deform the formation and renew our formation. Reform. Deform first and reform later. I leave these thoughts with you. I thank Father Lawrence and the other organizers for giving me this occasion to be presidential address. I hope I have not been too long. Forgive me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Grace, for having blessed us with your stimulating presidential address. A true teacher would never tell you what to do, but he would give you the knowledge with which you could decide what would be the best for you to do. I am extremely happy to invite Most Reverend Dr. Lawrence Pius, Bishop of Dharmapuri and the Vice Chancellor of St. Peter's Pontifical Institute, an inspiring teacher and a distinguished orator, deep thinker, passionate reader, writer, and speaker. He is not only incredible pastor and true shepherd, but also excellent teacher. His service and intellectual contributions in the field of theology, philosophy, spirituality, and the pastoral life to the Indian Church is unparalleled. His insights will truly enlighten us. May I now request Your Excellency, Most Reverend Dr. Lawrence Pius, to enlighten us with his words of wisdom.
Dear Archbishop Peter Machado, the other dignitaries on the days, dear fathers, sisters, seminarians, good evening to each and every one of you. Once a Hindu gentleman was asked to give a talk to bishops, priests, and sisters, a congregation, mixed congregation. So he didn't know how to address them. So he asked one priest, how do I address the bishops? He said, you say most reverend. Oh, good. So he went for the talk and he started, most reverend bishops, less reverend priests, least reverend sisters. Sisters will forgive me for the least reverend. No. Now, at very outset, I'd like to congratulate Father Lawrence and all the staff members and seminarians and whoever helped in the coming to reality of this national seminar. Of course, for Father Lawrence is not, as Archbishop said, this is the first attempt. He is already very much into it. But to organize a seminar like this, where more than 300 people are taking part, is not easy. So I congratulate, I may not get a chance to congratulate again, so I congratulate all the organizers. First of all, I'd like to, in my little talk, share some insights which can set the stage for the coming talks, the next 2-3 days. First of all, Pope Francis how does he look at formation? He says, formation should acknowledge and integrate human weakness and divine grace. Both should go hand in hand. And he outlines three important guidelines. First of all, the communal aspect. That means a seminary should not be empty, neither it should be overcrowded. It should have an ideal number, conducive number. Second, maturity. Candidates should have maturity not only intellectually, but also spiritually, religiously, and also in the human aspects. Thirdly, formation should be humbling. Pope uses the word, seminarians should not think when they become ordained that they are supermen who pretend to know everything and control everything. They should not be thought of, they should not think themselves as supermen. And he even uses a word which can be hurting. Catholic priests can become little monsters if they are not trained properly as seminarians. They can become little monsters. Hard word. Catholic priests. I'm reminded of another incident. Once, around 10 o'clock in the morning, a lady knocked at the office door of a parish priest. And the parish priest, yes, come in. The lady walked in with a dog. Yes, madam, what can I do for you? And the madam said, Father, I came to ask you if you can baptize my dog. She said, what? Baptize a dog? You think I'm trained for baptizing dogs? Please don't waste my time. The lady said, in that case, Father, I was thinking of giving a donation of rupees 1 lakh. I'll go to the church opposite CSI church and ask the pastor to baptize my dog. No, wait. Why didn't you tell me first that it's a Catholic dog? It's a Catholic dog means out of a... So once a bishop in Chile asked Pope Francis, that sister who gave the introduction already mentioned it, she said, what would you say to a young man or a young person who feels vocation to religious life or priesthood? Pope said, he or she should allow himself or herself to be gazed at by Jesus. And Jesus will say, if you wish, come and help. Talking to Italian bishops once, Pope Francis said, seminarians and priests should beware of a rigid mindset. This rigidity can come in liturgy, canon law, theology, any aspect. Because rigidity gives some sort of security. We should always be open. In 2016, his department released a 91-page document on seminary training aimed at rooting out clericalism and an obsession with liturgy and a presumed theological or disciplinary certainty. No? Some priests are sure of everything. They say we have nothing new to learn. And he says it's more important to learn less about liturgical rubrics than to be rooted in service, and to use one of his favorite phrases, and to have the smell of the sheep. To have the mind of Jesus, who bent down to wash the feet of his disciples. A priest and a seminarian should learn to spend time with Jesus in prayer, listening to him in silence before the tabernacle. Archbishop spoke about synodality. And synodality is just listening to God and walking with others, which bears fruit by becoming living signs of Jesus present in the world. Pope added, the church needs your enthusiasm, generosity, and zeal to show everyone that God is always with us in any circumstance of life. Listening, walking together, giving testimony mark the synodal path of the church and also your path towards priestly ordination. Again, he repeats, the mission of a seminary is not to form supermen, but humble servants of communities. He recalls his own days of formation. Pope Francis says, it was very strict those days, step by step. And the one who lasted till the end would be ordained, and the others would fall by the wayside or just drop out. You have to endure till the end. Only those who endure will be ordained. But today, times have changed. Formation has become more personal and communitarian. Further, Pope Francis said he really wanted to talk about an obsession that I have. What is this obsession? They should have seminarians and candidates to priesthood should learn proximity or closeness to God and to their people, their peers, and their bishops. He goes on to say, the busier a priest is, the more he has to lose time in prayer. Already Martin Luther said that during the time of the Reformation. The busier you are, you have to spend more time in prayer. And he says, we cannot have priests who are like directors of a parish business, who lead at the top of their voices. Rather, priests should know how to dialogue, to hold an elderly person's hand, and to visit the sick. Dear friends, what has changed in formation over the years? I think the document of John Paul II, Pastoris Dabo Vobis, was an important milestone because it emphasized human formation. Never before, perhaps, coming from the top, human formation was given so much importance. And today, we know the situation in India and elsewhere. Secularism, materialism, relativism, shallow spirituality, selfie culture, rise of religious fundamentalism, all these are undermining and confusing the value systems and vision of our seminarians. I'm not talking about St. Peter's Seminary. I'm talking of seminaries as a whole. I've been visiting professor in quite a few seminaries. The formation is often routine, monotonous, insulated from problems outside, whereas people outside are struggling to make a living, mechanical, overprotected, over-intellectual. Are we really in touch with the people we are going to work with tomorrow? Therefore, the need to give emphasis to the human and spiritual formation, the lack of psycho-spiritual formation in handling emotions, loneliness, frustration, and healing from past hurts may lead to unhealthy relationships, addictions, lack of motivation, and also a lack of zeal. the Pope finally says a word to the formators. His formation is not an easy job. Formators have to sacrifice themselves daily. They have to give up the instinct and the desire to go out often. They have to be available to the seminarians. It's a challenging ministry. And he says, formators and priests have to be men of peace, who surround themselves with serenity, even during hardships. And our humanity is the clay pot in which we guard the treasure of God. So care must be taken to preserve our clay pot where we keep God's treasure. I wish and pray that the coming days will throw more light on formation, integral formation, both for priests, sisters, religious. And may God's blessing be with us throughout this national seminar.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for your inspiring and enriching address. We are indeed happy to have Reverend Dr. Richard Brito, the Rector of St. Peter's Pontifical Seminary, with us this evening to offer felicitation for the National Conference. May I now invite the Rector to deliver his words of felicitation.
Your Grace, Archbishop Peter Machado, Your Excellency Bishop Lawrence Pius, Mother Rosaline, Sister Inigo, Reverend Dr. Felix Wilfred, Reverend Dr. Hay Lawrence, Reverend Dr. Stanley Fernandez, and dear fathers, brothers, and sisters, wishing you all a delightful evening. The gift of the priestly and religious vocation is a unique reality in the Catholic Church. The priestly and religious vocation is placed in the hearts of men by God, and it manifests the divine, immeasurable riches of Christ. The priestly and religious vocation is a gift and a mystery. Pope Francis says, vocations are like an uncut diamond to be formed both patiently and carefully, that they may shine among the people of God. The Charter of Formation, the gift of priestly vocation, describes the priestly and religious formation as the indispensable means for vocational discernment, one unbroken missionary journey of discipleship. In the context of ever-changing realities of 21st century, a technological and digital age, the priestly and religious formation is at the crossroads due to the various changes and shifts that have been taking place in lifestyle, value system, and worldview today. The digital era and the current trends have seriously affected priestly and religious vocations and formation. These changes are not to be ignored or considered as negative elements, but we need to approach them as opportunities to learn new things and grow. And we have come together at this crucial time of several challenges and crises in the priestly and religious vocation and formation. And let this national conference help us to discover new pastoral visions and approaches in priestly and religious formation suitable for Indian context in line with the vision of Pope Francis. Pope Francis is concerned about priestly and religious formation, and he is always very attentive to address the issues of vocation and formation. He has spoken about this on various occasions. Speaking with the rectors and formators of Latin American seminaries on 10th November 2022, he insisted that all priestly formation, particularly that of future pastors, is at the heart of evangelization. Priestly formation, he said, is called to acknowledge and integrate both human weakness and divine grace, to lead seminarians on a journey of faith and integral maturity, following in the footsteps of the incarnate Son of God. The mission of a seminary is not to form supermen who pretend to know and control everything, but to help seminarians become priests who are humble servants of the communities they continue to belong. Addressing the staff and seminarians of the Pontifical North American College on 14th January 2023, again Pope Francis highlighted that the priestly formation and preparation to priesthood has a synodal journey in which they are called to listen to the Holy Spirit and to one another in order to discern how to help God's holy people live his gifts of communion and become missionary disciples. Pope Francis also often describes formation as a journey of missionary disciple or a synodal journey. Addressing the seminarians of the Diocese of Calabria on 27th March 2023, Pope said, "Formation is walking together. You who are on this path of the formation, learn how to walk together, but together, not isolated, not as different tribes. No, together in the manner you choose. The Lord will always accompany you." And he said, I repeat, together in fraternity. His vision for formation is to be explored. It is so relevant to our Indian context. I wish that our coming together to know and learn the challenges and the issues in the formation of priests and religious today may bear rich fruit in collectively discovering the new modes and methods to make formation suitable and relevant in Indian context. May the grace of God and the accompaniment of the Lord and the inspirations of the Holy Spirit be with us during these days of conference. I extend to you all welcome to St. Peter's, and have a pleasant stay during the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Father, for your words of felicitation. We are very privileged to have in our midst Reverend Sister Rose Celine, Superior General, Sisters of the Little Flower of Bethany, Bangalore. Sister has served as the President of National Conference of Women Religious of India. She has also proven competence in the field of formation and education for the past several years. May I now request Reverend Sister Rose Celine to offer her felicitation to the National Conference.
A very good evening to all of you. Most Reverend Dr. Peter Machado, Most Reverend Dr. Lawrence Pius, Reverend Sister Inigo Joachim, Reverend Dr. Anthony Lawrence, Reverend Dr. Felix Wilfred, Reverend Dr. Richard Brito, and Reverend Father Stanislaus Fernandez, respected rectors, esteemed professors, major superiors, counselors, formators, aspiring formies, and dear participants. I stand before you today with a profound sense of joy and gratitude as we come together to acknowledge and appreciate the collaborative efforts of St. Peter's Pontifical Institute, Bangalore, and the Asian Center for Cross-Cultural Studies, Chennai, in organizing this national conference. Our gathering here holds great significance as we delve into the theme of priestly and religious formation in India today, in the light of Pope Francis's vision, marking the decennium of Pope Francis's papacy. The vision of Pope Francis, a beacon of hope and renewal, to form well-integrated priests and religious for the Church, deeply resonates with the pressing needs of our time. I extend my heartfelt appreciation and congratulations to the organizers of this national level conference, the President, Reverend Dr. Anthony Lawrence, Reverend Dr. Richard Brito, the Rector, and staff of St. Peter's Pontifical Institute for bringing together a diverse and dynamic group of scholars and experts. This conference stands as a testament to their unwavering commitment to fostering dialogue and development within the Church in the true spirit of synodality in one of the most significant aspects of the life of the Church, namely, formation of priests and religious. The timeliness and relevance of this conference cannot be overstated in an era marked by rapid technological changes and societal values dominated by the culture of hedonism, materialism, consumerism, and sensual gratification, which are in contrast with the values of consecrated life, which call forth perseverance and permanence. This conference intends to throw light into the ground realities of the formies of Z generation, who are gripped and influenced by the social media. Consequently, the difficulties encountered by formators in formation arising out of their own upbringing and high expectations will be rightly sorted out. In this regard, I'm hopeful that an alarming number of dropouts due to meaninglessness in priestly and religious life or other deviations, which is a serious concern, will be addressed. Correspondingly, the tools like spiritual direction, discernment, counseling, and accompaniment will be imperative. Highlighting the importance of psychospiritual formation, I'm hopeful that the guidelines for the use of psychology in the admission and formation of candidates for the priesthood given in the document by the Congregation for Catholic Education in 2008 will be considered. Amidst the looming threats of conflict between nations within the Church and the families, our formation programs are to be evolved to meet these new challenges facing our global community, embracing the dream of Fratelli Tutti to build a holistic human family and heed the call to care for our planet, as emphasized in Laudato Si and subsequent documents. In the light of these documents, the theme of redefining formation for priestly and religious life becomes paramount. Pope Francis' resounding call for a church that extends its embrace to the peripheries with the vision of proactive and outward-reaching church requires a paradigm shift that necessitates a profound reorientation of our pastoral and pedagogical strategies to create a compassionate heart for the poor and suffering humanity. That is why Pope Francis says, formation is the formation of the heart. This conference also provides a strategic platform for the Church in India as we look ahead to the Jubilee year 2025. Discussions on ecclesial leadership and the social teachings of Pope Francis are fundamental in charting a path for a church that is more relevant. Further, the conference seems to aim at learning the expectations of the people of God as we walk together, listen, and dialogue. To our distinguished experts who will stimulate our reflections, I offer my sincere best wishes. Your scholarly contributions on various sub-themes ranging from redefining formation and the new humanism proposed by Pope Francis to the socio-pastoral challenges in today's formation are invaluable. Your insights will undoubtedly enrich our understanding and provide a blueprint for enriching our collective wisdom and guiding our future endeavors. I wish an enriching time to all participants. Your presence and participation breathe life into this conference, making it not just a meeting of minds, but a conference of spirits dedicated to the noble cause of priestly and religious formation. In the spirit of synodality, which emphasizes walking together, I hope that the participants will engage in deep reflection, prayer, and open-hearted discussions. This conference isn't merely about discourse. It's about igniting a spark for change that will shape a meaningful future for the Church. As Pope Francis aptly pointed out on the 22nd World Day for Consecrated Life in 2018, that today's fast-paced world often leads us to close doors to encounters, primarily due to fear. The only places that remain perennially open are shopping malls and internet connections. However, this should not be the case with consecrated life. The brothers and sisters given to us by God are an integral part of our history and gifts to be cherished. Let us never gaze more at the screen of our cell phone than into the eyes of our brothers and sisters, or focus more on our software than on the Lord. Dear participants, united in this noble quest for the advancement of priestly and religious formation, may this conference serve as a catalyst for meaningful change and an enduring source of inspiration for the Church in India and beyond for years to come. A word of thanks to the President for offering me a splendid opportunity to felicitate the organizers and all the members of this august assembly. Thank you. May God bless your endeavors. Kudos, St. Peter's, and my heartiest congratulations to all the organizers with a round of applause.
Thank you, dear Reverend Sister Rose Celine, for your felicitation. We are delighted to have Professor Dr. Felix Wilfred, founder and director of Asian Center for Cross-Cultural Studies, Chennai. I call upon Professor Dr. Felix Wilfred to offer his felicitation.
Good evening to everyone. Most Reverend Dr. Peter Machado, Chancellor of St. Peter's Institute and Archbishop of Madras, Most Reverend, Bangalore. It is the bad habit of Most Reverend Dr. Lawrence Pius, Bishop of Dharmaburi and Vice Chancellor of St. Peter's Institute, Father Lawrence, President of the Institute, Father Richard, who is the rector, Mother Rose Celine, and Father Sani Fernando and Sister Inigo, who will be delivering the keynote address shortly. I am very delighted to share a few thoughts in this inaugural function. 1 week back, I got a phone call from a parish priest from the Diocese of Milan. Probably the Diocese of Milan is the largest Catholic diocese in the world. And I was struck by one thing he narrated. It was about his house visit to a Catholic, so-called Catholic family. He said as he went and went to the house, they smiled and they were very happy. And they told the parish priest, "Father, we don't believe in God or anything you preach, but you are welcome as a guest. We can have tea together." If you look at what's happening in the West, we have gone beyond the stage of mere secularism, materialism. There was one time, some few decades back, we have gone beyond that stage of secularism. We have come to a crisis of God, or what we call nihilism, believe nothing. And interestingly, there is an increase in the belief in the reincarnation, being born again. Is because, not because, in India we pray so that we may not be born again. But now they pray to be born again because one life is too short to enjoy all the goodies we have. So this is the cultural environment, and you can imagine the challenges it poses to priestly and religious life. No wonder most of the places of formation in the West are getting empty because the challenge is too much. Why I am saying this is, however great our formation programs from our congregations or whatever it is, which have their roots in the West, they are not applicable to us. We must be convinced of that. Cut the umbilical cord and not hang on to, idolize that. Rather, we should act formation in our context, in the Indian context, which has different set of challenges. And that's one of the things which we are going to do, I suppose, in these 2-3 days. What are the challenges we are facing here? What kind of priestly and religious formation is required? Karl Barth is, supposed to have been, said as the greatest Protestant thinker of the 20th century. And famously he said that we should read Bible in one hand and the newspaper in the other hand. I did not bring the Bible because Bible is in our hearts, but I literally brought a newspaper. It's the Hindu of 29th of November, reporting about the rescue of 49 workers who are caught in the Silkyar tunnel for 14, days of ordeal, that. It reported on 29th and 30th, but we should read the newspaper not only what it says, but between the lines. That's what I want to do, and tell what is the context in which we need to do the formation, the challenges there. And what it brings out is very interesting, because they brought this big machine from America. It says there was an advanced US-made auger machine airlifted and brought. And that was on 15th of November. And then what happened on 24th of November, they are going on with that machine. 24th, Blades of auger machine got stuck and hopes dwindled. The biggest technology. But ultimately, who rescued those 41 people? Ordinary people. I want to talk about them and want to also question what kind of formation these people received. Let me talk about at least 4 people. There are 12, the 12 apostles who rescued compassion and love. And interestingly, notably, among the 12, majority were Dalit and Muslims, the 2 communities mostly oppressed in this country, along with tribals. So, those people in the periphery are the redeemers, the saviors in times of crisis, something to think about. Let us think about Mohammed Rashid, 37-year-old, and he studied only 7th class. He was not in a novitiate or, theologate, philosophate, etc. Just 7th class. Ankur, 25-year-old Dalit boy from Buldashar. Another Dalit boy, Devendra, 40-year-old man, and others. And these are the people who risked their life. It's not because already people are there. What it means, they have a family, their children. What made these people to risk, sacrifice, take this step? Do you think the middle and upper class will do that? They went, and after the rescue, they were asked what they need. And let me quote from Muhammad Irshad, who said, it's beautiful wisdom from the babes. He said, I just wish that every human being should be treated as a human being and love should remain in the country. Beautiful words of wisdom from an uneducated person. So I brought this case, all these things to say that ordinary people have deep human passion, humanity deep in them, the wells of humanity. The question we need to basically ask, do you cultivate these springs of deep humanity, love and compassion, or what do you do? Probably the priestly and religious formation, the longest formation in the whole world, probably 10, 12 years, I don't know. And at the end, you create highly selfish people at the end, self-centered, instead of somebody going out, reaching out, and you create workshops, counseling, this and that. I remember the words of Gandhi. We have too many workshops, sending for counseling, all kinds of, because when you are not involved, the personal problems increase. I was always struck by the words of Gandhi, who said, he said beautifully, when you are tormented by a problem, troubled by a problem, I will give you a remedy, recipe. You do that. Recall to your mind, imagine the face of a man or woman, the most disfigured, the most poverty-stricken, and then you ask, what is your problem? Therefore, do we create people who are selfless, reaching up? That's precisely. That is, I think we have tremendous human resources, one of the best human resources, also in the church, not only in the society, in India. And we do not sufficiently appreciate the real wealth of the church is human resources. And that's what we are talking about, formation. It's not the assets. The church, the physical assets, do not have simply a commercial value. It should not be. The service value. And most important asset is the human resources. And that's what the whole conference is about. How do you cultivate the best human resources so that the mission of Jesus, of the kingdom, takes place, building of human resources. And as I said, cultivating deeply the humanity, compassion, love, about which Pope Francis never ceases to speak. We need to re-examine our traditional ways of formation. Many things have been said by Archbishop and Bishop Lawrence and other speakers, in various aspects. We have to re-examine our traditional formation, rethink our priorities, lopsided priorities, Sometimes, what is very small can be very big. Parish priest can go on preaching about no alcohol, temperance the whole year, but not about justice, about charity, nothing. This is a lopsided priority. You don't give proportionately. What's most important? So therefore, formation needs to reprioritize, rethink, and also think about reformulating a pedagogy, proper pedagogy. The pedagogy is very important. It's not only knowing, but also transform, because the formation is a pedagogy. I remember one professor who was my professor, I was very glad, Monosengo, who was a professor of pedagogy, who used to tell Italian, I will translate it. The pedagogy is not far fare, but far voler fare. Pedagogy is not making somebody to do something, that's a commanding. I have the power, you do that. Disciplining and punishing, it's not a formation. Far voler fare, making somebody wish to do what is. That is a very difficult. Making is difficult. You have the power, you can do all that. But making somebody, human being, to wish to do is something. So we have those big, great challenges. And I'm so happy that this conference, workshop has come to realization. And thanks to a galaxy of, the people of St. Peter's. And you see, astronomers speak about the conjunction of all the planets, etc. So I think in St. Peter's we have the conjunction of great planets coming together. We have a great Vice Chancellor who is so open and supportive, which is not always taken for granted. I know how difficult in some of the theologies and other places, But we have a very great Vice Chancellor who is also speaks truth to power. Courage, nationally. He has been singled out as a leader of the church who can speak with courageously, not afraid of the consequences. Vice Chancellor. Chancellor. And we have a Vice Chancellor who is versatile and scholarly, and we have a President who is dynamic and a man of vision, and a Rector, someone who can take along everybody. So we have the best of people coming together. We have a synergy, and therefore we can expect that many more of these things, these contributions, comes from St. Peter's Pontifical Institute, which is moving towards, I hope, towards probably the first ecclesiastical university in the country. I hope this comes true with the support of our dear Archbishop during his time. That this is materialized. And I'm very happy to associate myself personally, as well as the small center we have, Asian Center for Cross-Cultural Studies, with this initiative. And we did it also, this cooperation, when we had last year a landmark conference on synodality. I will find the results in a big, bulky volume out there. And then a few weeks back on mission, and now this. And I'm most happy to associate myself and wish that this conference becomes really very, very fruitful, and really it's a renewing and reforming the church. I want to congratulate once again the staff and students, especially the President, for this great initiative, and wish one and all a very happy conference. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Professor, for your words of felicitation. I am honored and privileged to request our esteemed speaker, Reverend Sister Inigo Joachim, the former Superior General of the Sisters of Saint Anne, Chennai. She is known for her capacity to captivate many hearts through the significant issues presented in a very simple style. As all of us know her, she is a profound and original thinker, and above all, a simple person, and I am certain that her keynote address will inspire and enlighten us and lead us for a deeper understanding of the vision of Pope Francis for the priestly and religious formation in India today. May I now call upon Reverend Sister Inigo Joachim to give us the keynote address.
My dear friends, seated here, fortunate. Why we are fortunate? Only we are allowed to speak from 5:30. And my dear unfortunate friends seated here, from 5:30 you have been asked only to listen, which is a very torturous mission. And you have been doing that very wonderfully. Congratulations. So, good evening to all of you, all here and here. I do not know why I am chosen by the organizers to present a keynote address. A non-theologian is invited to present a keynote address to theologians. I deem it a great privilege to stand before you and so many scholars and great theologians, eminent speakers, archbishops, bishops, and others. And I am very grateful to Father Lawrence. When he was introducing about each one of us, describing very beautifully, I thought he was recommending all our names to Vatican for canonization. So many things which he said, I myself do not know about myself. Yeah, very good. I am very grateful to you for this. When I was invited a few years ago by CBCA, Conference of Religious, that was held at Jamshedpur on the theme Women Empowerment, I was the one invited to present a paper, Scriptural and Theological Foundation for Women Empowerment. After I spoke in the conference, I came out, our Cardinal Bombay, he asked me, Inigo, where did you do your theology? I said, I have never done theology anywhere. Hence, I presume whatever I speak makes sense to everybody. So therefore, I'm speaking, you can easily understand, because it's not something from theological, it's from my heart. You know, I'm speaking, and when I asked Father Lawrence also a couple of days ago, Father, how much time I can take to present my paper? He said, you can take as much time as you want, but we will all go away after 30 minutes. So before you all go away, just to share with you some of my concerns. And because the topic is in the light of Pope Francis' vision, he comes to my rescue. Whatever I want to say, Holy Father says very beautifully. So I'm very happy. So I'm speaking to you in the backdrop of two great events happened recently. One is the global crisis warranted by COVID-19. It has brought unprecedented challenges in the world, the whole world. It has affected every sector of life. It has affected even our faith in God, existence of God. People started questioning. It has affected our worship, our prayers, our spirituality. So in this backdrop, we have to see whether our formation is relevant in the pre or post-COVID-19. The second great event, Pope Francis' bold initiative, Synod on Synodality. We have started speaking new language now, which we never spoke before Synod. Now our language is include everybody. respect everybody, listen to everybody with the ear of the heart, listening, consultation, dialogue, discernment, decision making. These are the buzzwords today. So I really wonder, in the context of these two events, whether formators have looked into their program, the content of the program, the subjects they are teaching, the methodology, the relevance of what they are teaching, and the candidates who are joining our priestly or religious life. How relevant, because we are experts in repeating what was there before. The language of Jesus is, my language is very simple. My ideas are very simple. My communication style is very simple. You know why? Because I'm proclaiming the simple message of a simple man. The simple man is Jesus. The simple message is love. But we are experts in complicating this simple message by our clever theories, by complicated messages, and by so many interventions. Simple message, love. Only to teach that love, we spend so many years in formation. Finally, after all the 10 years of formation, we don't even know to smile. That is how our formation is doing. Yeah, you are clapping hands, very good. Anyway, so we are called to take a moment to ponder over sincerely what the Lord is asking of us in this seemingly difficult and challenging situation. Are we serious about? Do we know what is happening outside? How this COVID-19 has affected people. People have lost a job. People have lost homes. They are going into depression. Many have got suicidal tendencies. And many educated youth, they are jobless today. They need counseling. Children are uncontrollable. Parents they don't know what. In this situation, as our formation helps us to deal with all these problems, or we are living in our own world, multiplying number of years. In any case, apart from school and college education, the brother or the sister, nearly we spend 7 to 10 years. After so many years of formation, do we know what is happening outside of us? Does it disturb us? Do we feel the pain of? Do we feel the pain? If all these years of formation doesn't disturb us and help us to respond to today's situation, we are not living in pre-COVID time. We are not living in pre-synodal times, then that time formation could have been different. We cannot repeat yesterday's answer to today's problems. We become irrelevant. My dear friends, we cannot put the toothpaste back into the tube. So everything is new. As we read in book of Joshua, chapter 3, verse 4, he says, you have not passed through this way. Never we pass through this way. Everything is new. We have to look into that's why Holy Father in October 22, he speaks to the people in formation in Rome. Formation is a synodal journey in which the formees are called to listen to the Spirit in order to discern how to help God's people. Our formation to help others. He places before us 3 challenges that only I'm going to develop. Number 1, formation should help you to cultivate mystical dimension. That I'll speak about it. That's number 1 big challenge. Number 2, formation is calling us to be prophetic witnesses. Number 3, Pope Francis highlighted the third one, mission of serving the poor. That is, taking gospel Jesus to the periphery, to the suffering brothers and sisters. I am not sure the formators have re-looked once again the or I don't know whether they have the freedom to change anything also. So we continue the same. Let happen whatever is happening outside. Our concern, ours is examination oriented, syllabus based. We have to finish everything and pass the exam. You are ready for ordination. You are ready for first vows and final vows. But is the heart formed to deal with the people? So therefore I deal with the first challenge, to be a mystic. Mysticism, mystical dimension, nothing new for India. We know mysticism is not a head level knowledge. I tell about God to others. That's not mysticism. Mysticism is an experience. Mysticism is not sitting in the chapel hours together and praying non-stop endless prayers. Mysticism is to know the God. Who is the God? God proclaimed by Jesus of Nazareth. That God is different. And one who knows the heartbeat of Jesus. I wonder, with all this, suppose we preach like this, why priests and sisters are still drawn to the institutions to become principals, to become administrators, to become managers, and to have the power and position for which many lay people are already there. And they are much more capable than many of us. They are extremely knowledgeable, extremely generous. And when they are capable of doing with much more humanness, why should we compete with them? Who will do our pastoral ministry? Who will do our sacramental ministry? For which we women are not allowed. Neither you allow us nor you do it. Then how God's people will be formed by? Leave that ministry for people who are capable of doing. Let them do it. You are trained for a different purpose. Yesterday you got the results of 4 states in India. I don't know how you feel about it. I can't speak from here loudly. It's really painful. It's really, but what I admire in those people, their working strategy, their focused hard work, their purpose. They wanted to win. Is there a purpose that I want to finally at the end of my formation? So, in our formation, if the formation has succeeded only in producing or churning out eminent scholars, writers, professors, and speakers, then our formation has miserably failed. Thomas Aquinas, he wrote his theology on his knees. Ignatius Loyola, he wrote his spiritual exercises in Manresa cave. Francis Assisi founded his mendicant order, months together spending in the cave in contemplation. If where and when and how we have lost this mystical dimension, and thereby we have lost Jesus of Nazareth also. We know mystics. I remember mystics. India got lot of mystics, even in other religions. And one mystic I remember, Kabir. How beautifully he speaks. Tu chandan mein pani, tu deepak mein batti. And we're so connected. Wherever I see only you. Therefore, even my enemy appears like you only. That means, today we talk about Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Today we talk about synodality, including everybody. Years ago, our mystics spoke about including everybody. I see everywhere. Our God is not a distant God. Our God is not a vague, some figure or statue. He's a living God. He's a compassionate God. He's a merciful God, aboundant in mercy and steadfast love. If I have that image of God, I have no other way except presenting that God through my life with my compassion, with my love, with my merciful presence. If I don't do that, which God am I proclaiming? Who is our God today? Let's decide. Who is our God today? He is Antaratma, Antarayamin. He cannot be separated from me like waves cannot be separated from the ocean. He is here. Swami Vivekananda beautifully said, first rule I put my novices, my formies, Swami Vivekananda, only character I expect from my formies is gentleness. Because we are not going to live in monasteries inside. We are mendicants. We are going to work with the lay people, with others. When they see us, when we are not gentle, they will hate us. Not only they will hate us, they will hate the organization we belong to. Not only that, they will hate our God also. Oh, is this the God you are? So therefore, our God, who is the God Jesus came to proclaim? Who is the God? Who is the God our founders and foundresses, they proclaimed? Who is the God Pope Francis is proclaiming today? If he is the God, then Pope Francis wrote, you are not NGOs. Says very clearly, you are not NGOs. Your call is different without mystical dimension. If you think you can live and do everything, you will be a failure. And I quote here, when disciples asked Jesus, they never asked, teach us that how to do the miracle. Teach us how to give a clever talks. Teach us how to be popular. They only asked Jesus, teach us to pray. If people, when they look at us, Father, sister, teach me to pray. I want to know how to pray. Looking at you, I feel like asking, can I pray like you? How do you encounter Jesus in your life? Please teach me. This is our formation. In Genesis chapter 3:10, Jacob tells Esau, looking at you is, for me, seeing the face of God. Can others look at us and say, seeing your face is seeing the face of God? Acts 6:15, looking at St. Stephen, people said, your face is shining like the face of an angel. Can my face? How many times people say, why fathers and sisters are rude? Why they are very hard? Why they are ruthless sometimes? Why they don't understand? No. Can our face shine like the face of an angel? Acts of the Apostles 4:13. I was reading surprised. And the Jewish people saw Peter and James. They were uneducated people, not like us, highly educated. They were illiterate. They were ordinary people, but they recognized them as companions of Jesus. Can others recognize us? We are the companions of Jesus. We don't need to go and tell everybody. The way we talk, very polite way. All this formation is given to make us noble people. Am I a noble person? The way I talk, I relate, I do the ministry. Can people say, I am a majestic person? If they don't feel that way, our formation, I don't know. The second challenge, does our mystical dimension steer us to be prophetic witnesses? A prophet is not one who censors everybody, who criticizes everybody, who condemns everybody. He is not the prophet. A prophet is one who listens to God in silence and listens to God in the suffering. In silence, invisible God. In the suffering, visible God. Then comes out and says, "Thus says the Lord." How can he say, "Thus says the Lord," unless you are intimacy? A mystic only can be a prophet. A mystic only can be a missionary. Our mountain experience should lead us to multitude experience. Our prayer experience should lead us to people experience. Our God experience should lead us to community experience. Our chapel experience should lead us to street experience. Our withdrawal should take us back to involvement experience. One without the other doesn't make us religious or priest. Only a mystic can be a missionary, visionary, and a prophet. All the others, we do wonderfully our profession ministries, we become NGOs. Our call being a mystic and a prophet. I have heard the cry of my people. The first message, the biblical God we hear about, a God who hears the cry. So we are expected to hear the cry of the people today. Moses got occasion because God heard the cry of somebody and he gave occasion to Moses. You and I are called because God heard the cry of somebody. Our occasion is the cry of somebody. Who cried, "Lord, you thought of me"? Who is crying, "Lord, today, you still want me"? My vocation is not the result of my prayer, my family prayer, my talent, my intelligence. No. Somebody's cry, God thought she or he will wipe the tears of these people. Not bringing tears to people, wipe the tears of the people. And our God cannot tolerate slavery. The first act of God in the Bible, liberate my people from slavery. Wherever there is slavery in our institution, there is no God. Because God cannot accept. How do we treat our employees? How do we enslave them? How do we pay just wages to them? How do we justify? Because they are voiceless people. If they speak, even the job they will lose. Why they come to sisters and fathers? They will understand us. They are the people who experience God. So how do we treat them? The slavery is not only in the institution, political, but also enslaving people today due to sexual abuse. That's also slavery. Financial abuse and power abuse. My dear friends, you are standing on the holy ground. God said to Moses, the formation houses, seminary, and religious formation houses, holy grounds for thousands of priests and religious. On this holy ground, when we stand, God says, remove the sandals, remove your pride, remove your ego, remove your high-handedness. Don't forget the roots from where you all came. Let's not forget. Amazing grace, you and I are sitting here today. Amazing grace. Let's not forget the roots. And let's listen to, don't enslave anybody. There is no God. And remove the sandals. Therefore, seminary of our formation house is not merely engaged in intellectual pursuits and scholarly attainments. Rather, it strives to assist the formees to gain mystical experience as well as to make a prophet of our times. But synodality is not understood today. one can surmise that this is the truth. The institutional church does not wish to hear the word synodality. Journeying as equals, listening to each other, a hard concept in the hierarchical church. When Pope says the authority comes not from ordination but from baptism, though it was said already in Lumen Gentium, Second Vatican II, but Pope is repeating again, it challenges seminary religious formation culture. Our seminaries have not even begun to think that way. The seminary formation should not allow for a sense of entitlement and the inherent superiority of the priest or religious. The theology of ordination has to be rewritten. This is why clericalism is such a distasteful thing for the Pope. And he speaks so strongly condemning it. He refers to the stench of clericalism. Very strong words. What are our seminaries doing about this? Look at the reality of women and women religious and the bullying that goes on. Bullying is actually abuse of women. God denounces such behavior, as it is against what God intends for men and women. On 29th October 2023, Pope said these words, "It is painful to find in some parish offices the price list of sacramental services, putting the list how much to pay for this mass, for high mass how much to pay, for wedding mass list goes up. How much you have to pay? In the manner of supermarket," Holy Father's words. Then the priests become mere employees of a multinational corporation. This is the great defeat to which clericalism leads us. But remember, my friends, clericalism is not only the sin of clergy. Wherever you feel, I am above everybody, nobody can question me, I am special, everybody should serve me, I am unique. Wherever people live with this mentality and make people your slaves, you are also part of clericalism. Don't think somebody else. How many of us also part of clericalism? Because nobody can question me. If you question me, you know what will happen to you. That is clericalism. So, third challenge, mission of serving the poor. Repeatedly, again and again, over and over in the Bible, what we find, God hears the cry of the poor. He cannot sit back and listening the cry of he comes down. Our God is an active God. He's not a passive God. What can I do? I hear the cry. He comes down. In Deuteronomy 15:9 we hear, when people cry to you, if you don't listen the cry, God says, they will come to me and cry, and I will hear the cry. You will feel guilty. If you don't hear the cry, people can only go to God and cry. You will feel guilty. How many times Pope Francis says repeatedly, go to the poor, go to the periphery, listen to the cry. Whom are we serving by this God-given occasion? Who are the beneficiaries of our God-given occasion? Who will say finally when we die and go to the Lord, they will recommend this priest, this brother, this sister, she did something to me, please allow her to go into heaven. How many will say, don't allow this person? They destroyed my life. They destroyed my life. We are not even sensitive to the people's cry. They cry, let them cry. So the church in general, and especially in India, is seen as not very sensitive in responding to the challenges. What we observe today in the church is a culture which lacks the horizontal dimension of spirituality and a culture which exhibits elements of conformity. Let's go back to Jesus of Nazareth. We need people like Father Stan Swami. As he says, I don't want to follow Jesus of Christians. I want to follow Jesus of Nazareth. How can I keep quiet when I see injustice happening in front of me? How can you? What formation, what books, what class you need to melt your hearts if you don't see the injustice happening in front of you? Yes, Pope Francis challenges our mediocre life. He hates any member who sits in office and pushes papers or waiting for the doorbell to ring. So the life of Jesus, with whom did he walk? Sinners, Samaritans, tax collectors, lepers, not hi-fi people. He never walked with distinguished or accomplished people. It's apparent that we have lost this Jesus of Nazareth and we are following a convenient Jesus who will make our life more comfortable without disturbing our conscience. Let's go back once again to Jesus of Nazareth. As Pope says, I prefer a church which is bruised, hurting, dirty because it is going to the streets. You have to go to the streets. So let's look at our parishes. Is that okay? Just introducing novenas, lot of pious exercises that we are doing. Is that all? The church which is afraid of taking a prophetic stand in favor of the poor is a dead church. Let's not behave like custom offices. We should be field hospitals. Every convent, every religious house, every formation center, parish house, a field hospital where wounded are healed, where weak are strengthened, where sick are healed. This is our ministry. Are we prepared to listen with the passion to the cries of the prisoners? Prisoners multiply. 5 years ago, in my own prison where I am working, Tihar jail, 13,000. After pandemic, 22,000. Increasing number of prisoners. Somewhere we have failed. We are creating criminals. We cannot blame, because they have nothing to eat after COVID. After COVID, many are brought because they must have stolen 10 rupees. Or for hunger, they must have stolen one banana. And prisoners are overflowing today. What are we doing in our educational institutions if we don't prevent these crimes and all that? Anyhow, sisters, last judgment, question paper is out. Very easy. Already question paper is with us. Prepare yourself. When I was hungry, that's all the questions. But what all questions we are preparing, writing the exam and pass the exam. With all this, are you feeding the hungry? Are you giving people who are thirsty to drink? Do you visit hospitals? Do you visit prisons? Do you clothe the naked? Simple questions out. But we are very good for complicated questions and complicated answers. So, I'm concluding, where is gospel spirituality? Are we progressing or regressing? Are our Sunday services of any meaning? Which God are we preaching from our pulpits? Are our annual church gatherings attended by thousands a mere show? Shouldn't they be reviewed today? Is worship divorced from life? The questions are many, answers are few. Many of the duties of the priest to including property administration could be transitioned to the laity, thereby relieving the priests to concentrate on their spiritual responsibilities. To be a head of a social service center, to be an accountant, we don't need ordination. Others can do, and more beautifully they will do it. The difference between priests, religious, and laity must be reduced. The hierarchical medieval structure of the church must be done away with. The liturgical celebrations must be made simple and linked to the daily realities of life. The emphasis must be on Christ's teachings, not on rites and rituals that we are fighting. As Pope Francis says, a priest or religious who has studied perhaps a lot of theology and has 1, 2, or 3 degrees, but has not learned to love people and bring people to Jesus is ineffective. He or she will be a good scholar or professor, but not a priest or religious. What is needed is fundamentally contextual theology, writes Pope Francis, capable of reading, interpreting the gospel in conditions which our people live today, living in horrible situation. If our formation helps us to feel and do something for these people, that is the success. Therefore, finally, Pope Francis speaks to the formators who teach more by the example of their own lives than by their words. He cautiously reminds the formators they must continually renew their own configuration to Christ first. They cannot just be, once a young formator went to an eye specialist. Normally, young people don't go to the eye specialist, but today all are going because of media. When he went, the doctor tested the eyes. He said, "Your eyes are in a very bad shape. How come you have strained them so much?" The young Fami in the seminary said, "What to say, doctor? I was told to see God in my formators and superiors. Looking for God, finally I lost my eyesight. But I didn't find God in my formators." So, be careful, formators. You cannot make seminaries information providing centers. They are mere syllabus based and examination oriented. Formators shouldn't be mere lecturers or occasional counselors. They must share the life of the formees and be open to their suggestions. Today, young people, they are much more knowledgeable, open to their suggestions, even to their criticism, with the conviction that the real work of formation is between formator and the Spirit. Conclusion. Some years ago, a church consultation on formation in Kerala concluded, we have produced enough intellectuals, enough writers, people with the doctorates, administrators, principals, and managers. Enough we have produced. Now we need to form mystics, prophets, real missionaries, and better refined human beings among them. This is the R for challenge, R for new responses to the new context, to the new issues. It's God's R, a Kairos moment. Let this conference be an opportune occasion to reinvent and revitalize the formation in India so that the church will have the leaders as good shepherds following the model of Jesus of Nazareth. Thank you very much for your patient listening. God bless you all.
Dear sister, we owe you more than we can express in words for your painstaking efforts to come to Bangalore and for shedding more light on the national conference through your keynote address. Thank you, sister. As we conclude this enriching inaugural session, I request all of you to proceed to the theology refectory for the dinner. A gentle reminder, tomorrow we will be gathering for the Holy Eucharistic celebration presided over by Most Reverend Dr. Francis Sarao, Bishop of Shivamogga, at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. Mass will be held in the Theology Chapel that is just above this auditorium. Now, may I request the dignitaries to stand for a group photo in front of the podium. Kindly keep standing as the dignitaries leave the auditorium. Have a good and blessed stay at St. Peter's. Thank you.